So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. My name is Luke Doran. I am the head coach and founder of the 1% and the podcast itself. The idea behind the podcast is me getting on some of my ex-clients, current clients, and ultimately high performers within business and life to talk about their experiences of where they've come from. And often the gents that I speak to have got it all going on from a career perspective, absolutely flying, business is going really well, but often that's coming at a cost of their own physical and mental well-being and often not showing up as best they want in other areas. Or there might be some gents who are like, kind of everything's okay, and the but is they're not really showing up as best they want and can't quite work out what they need to do. And so the purpose behind this podcast is to be able to get gents on who I work with and speak to talk about their experience and their journey. Because yes, of course, I've done some work with these guys, but equally their story and what they've done is incredibly empowering. And it shows you no matter where you're at, with a coach or not, you can take ownership and you can make some changes. Now, today we've got the awesome Mr. Tom Yoxall on the call on the podcast. By all accounts, I think he's a complete legend and he's had quite the journey. And I think his story is quite inspirational. I'm really excited for you guys to hear about it, but I want you to hear from the horse's mouth, not me. Tom, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to just introduce yourself? Who you are? What do you do?
Yeah, Tom Yoxall. I'm 36. International business development, international sales. Been doing that for the last over a decade now.
And married, kids, all the rest of it as well, right?
Yeah. Engaged.
So engaged.
Don't touch on that too much with my partner because it's like a engagement. 2 kids, daughter 7 and son who's 4.
So as everyone has lots going on, busy with work, life, and everything else that's going on. That being said, then Tom, let's jump right into it. So as we were saying just offline there, let's rewind a couple of months into the past. I think you'd been following me for a while on either Instagram or LinkedIn or a bit of both. I can't remember. We'd had a few back and forwards. A couple of months back, you decided to reach out. Look, Luke, let's have a chat. I want to talk to you about doing some work. What was going on with you back then that kind of made you reach out and speak to somebody like me to go, right, line in the sand, I want to make some changes?
The biggest thing with that kind of, I know we had a quick conversation on LinkedIn previously, and I guess I wasn't in the right frame of mind to move it forward at that time. And then 6 months passed, and I was still in the same spot. And I thought nothing's going to change unless I actively do something about it. And the main triggering point for me, the main issue that I kind of brought to that I wanted to kind of hopefully get on top of was my drinking. I've always, for as long as I can remember, Luke, had a really, really unhealthy relationship with alcohol, stemming back to early teens. But particularly since lockdown, it got to be a daily thing. I'd finish work if lockdown was the worst. I mean, the 5 o'clock beer had turned into a 4 o'clock beer and a 3 o'clock beer, and if I had a good day, I'd celebrate with a beer. If I had a bad day, I'd console myself with a beer. So yeah, it was weekly, more so on the weekends. My best way of describing it really is I was just coasting. Yes, like you touched on, work was going really well, but I was just coasting through life, just not being mindful of the things around me, not being appreciative, not showing up as the best version of myself. Not only to me, I guess, as a man in this world, we come last in a lot of instances, but not showing up for my wife, for my kids, not showing up as the best version of the person that I wanted to be. My biggest aspiration in life has always been, I'm quite public with this, is to be a father. I don't want to be an astronaut or footballer. It don't fucking interest me. My only goal in life was to be a good dad, and I definitely wasn't operating at 100% in that area, which thankfully is now drastically changed. But yeah, just not showing up as the best version, mate. Just coasting through life. Just being mediocre at best, average is how I'd describe it.
Yeah, and what you're describing there, Tom, firstly, great for you to be open and transparent about where you're at, especially around the alcohol piece, because not everyone is. But I think, like we've discussed before,
I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm always honest.
Well, that's it. But that level of honesty and that kind of transparency allows you to make changes, right? It kind of puts a line in the sand to go, this is where I'm at, and this is what we need to do. And I think you were, when we first spoke, you were very transparent about where you're at and what was going on. You were open about how you're feeling, but the narrative you're sowing there and what you're saying about where you're at and how you're feeling, I think it's as you know from doing the work now and coming into the process that I've got with the group, but it's a very common narrative, and it's this whole scenario of I've kind of got it all on paper, lovely misses, beautiful kids, business going quite well. But then we sort of peel back the onion a little bit and look deeper where you're at physically, mentally, emotionally is not where you want to be. And then often having a negative suite of habits that aren't serving you and compounding how you feel. In your case, alcohol was a large one of them. And kind of, I think you haven't said this, but you sort of alluded to it in terms of you've always wanted to be a dad. That's what you wanted to be. And knowing that you're not showing up as that best dad that you want to be because of these other factors we're talking about, that internally, like feeling like you're letting yourself down, that's a very difficult place to operate from, I think, because you just feel rocky and not comfortable, right?
Yeah. At the same time, though, bud, I wasn't kind of. I'm a lot more mindful now, and I look internally a lot more, and I kind of analyze all aspects of my life. Whereas at the time, I didn't. I was just kind of that was just me for that period of time, and I wasn't really aware of it. It certainly wasn't at the forefront of my mind as it is now. I certainly wasn't putting as much effort into making my days with the kids and the days with Kerry happy. I try. That's one of the things I do now. I try and make every day a happy day rather than just a coasting day or an argument or kids being kids and me flying off the handle with it.
Yeah. I think you mentioned before you had a couple of messages off Kerry. You shared them with me, saying that
Yeah.
she loves this new version of you, or
Yeah.
she's kind of like got the old Tom back. And I think
Yeah.
that's a real powerful representation that you're doing the work, right? Because you can say whatever you want, but actually, when your actions and behaviours are recognised by someone that you care about and love, you go, actually, that's me doing what I need to do. And I think it's fair to say you weren't in the greatest spot when we first spoke, right? And you recognised that.
Yeah.
And I think the alcohol was a core component to, I guess, insidiously making you not feel great. We've since done a fair bit of work around that. And I think the other thing for you, Tom, is that physicality, being strong and fit. I know you haven't said this, but I know from your past that it was a big part of your identity, and you hadn't been taking care of yourself in that regard as best you want either. And that impacts your self-esteem and how you feel. Now, physicality isn't the only thing, but it's a core part because we all fucking walk around in this meat bucket, and if you're not looking after it, that also compounds as well, right? Could you speak to
Yeah,
that?
I was thinking about this morning, and in preparation for this, and the way that I thought about it in my mind is I've been a fucking catfish, mate, for the last 6, 7 years, maybe longer, probably 8, 9 years, just proper catfishing Kerry.
Yeah.
I was nowhere near the person that I was when she first met. Back then I was 17 and a half stone, built like a brick shit house, looking well,
Yeah.
chiseled, everything that a man aspires to be. And I ballooned up to 20, 21 and a half. Yeah, I'm big and broad and I can carry it well, but I still had a gut. I still had back fat, love handles, muffin top, whatever you want to call it. Puffy face due to the drinking and the excess calories. Just making poor choices. But yeah, proper catfish, mate. But I'm proud to say I'm getting back down to my fighting weight and back to when 10 years ago when we first met.
Well, that's an important part, and for me, the physical component, it's often a byproduct of what you're doing or not doing, right?
Yeah.
It's quite the mirror is a pretty good representation of how well or not you're taking care of yourself, and I don't mean in a vain way, or you can say, or society was like, oh, well, you can be fat and a good dad. And of course you can. That's not what we're saying, right? You know how you feel about yourself and how you take care of yourself. And if you know where you can be, you look in the mirror and see something else that you don't recognize or doesn't live up to the expectations that you know you can hold yourself to. That's not great for your self-esteem because you know what it is. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's you. And I think for me, it's a good leading indicator of, am I taking care of myself? Now, is being ripped and jacked the only thing to be happy, content, and be a good person? Of course it's not, right? But being able to take care of yourself in the right way and feel good and look good about yourself, that has a big bearing on your mental state, how you feel, how you show up. And so it's not the only thing, it's a core part of a bigger picture. And I think for you, especially, it was bringing that back to life alongside the other components we worked on.
100%, mate. Yeah, for me, it was a whole collective thing. Yes, the looking good and feeling good is in terms of size is kind of a byproduct of what the course has delivered. But I did something the other day which I've never done before. I've never even heard about it, to be honest. Look, I watched a podcast on YouTube, and it was a guy saying, if you want a true representation of yourself, stand naked in front of the mirror with your bank balance on the screen. And I did that for the first time the other day, and I was genuinely impressed with the person that I am now compared to what I was 13 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that just shows you in quite a short space of time the sort of the transformation that you've been on. And I know the gents in the process talk about you, and I'm not blowing smoke up your arse. It's been quite inspirational watching your journey and where you're at, and especially around the alcohol piece because you made the decision yourself. And I share this on the social media, and I've talked to you about it. Like I had to make a decision 18 months ago, almost to the day now, where I was like, this isn't serving me anymore. I give it the big one about being Mr. Discipline. A coach meant to be the best. There's a big fucking red flag in my life that I'm not taking care of, and so I decided to take ownership of that. And it's not all unicorns and rainbows. It takes a lot of work. It's not straightforward. But off the back of that, making those positive choices around alcohol for me, it's reaped rewards. And I know for yourself, it's the same. Now, as you know, the program and how I work, it's not a program of sobriety. Most guys can drink with balance, and it's okay, and we can help them do that. There's certain individuals, you don't want me saying this, myself and you included, we can't, and so we have to take ownership of that. And you very much did that right from the start, and I think it's paid dividends. Right? Could you speak to that?
It was a funny thing with the alcohol because when I first came into the blueprint, I just wanted to get a handle on it, really. Just wanted to kind of just be normal with it, like normal people are. Just drink in moderation. Maybe just drop in like a Saturday or a Friday, whatever day that might be. And I kind of, because I bought in so much to the course and thought, I'm paying money for it, I want to just fucking balls to the wall,
Yeah.
just get in as much, get out as much as I can. I signed up on, my first day was November the 25th, and we had like a family function on December the 18th. And I said to myself, I'm going to not drink until the 18th, and then just play it by ear and see how I feel at the time. And what I was leaning towards having a drink on the 18th. The 18th come round, I decided not to drink. We had another family function between Christmas and New Year with a lot of friends, a big drinking thing. And I was adamant that I wasn't going to drink then. Yes, it was difficult not to do, but willpower got me through. And then I think around January time, I just decided I'm done. The way that I felt, the way that I was showing up more, the way that I was a lot more mindful, a lot more emotional with the kids and with Kerry, and just the change has been so drastic. I would have been foolish in January to go back to drinking. And I can hand on heart say that I've got no plans to ever drink again. I've recently gone through my biggest test in terms of the sobriety, which was my trade show in the US out in Indiana. It's the first trade show I've done since entering my career sober. Never, ever done one before in my life.
Massive, right?
It'd be drinking at lunchtime, and my last drink would be 1, 2 in the morning. Didn't touch a drop. Yes, it was tough. There was one day in particular where I almost caved. But again, just being mindful of the new me and how I feel and the positives. Just didn't do it. But that was my biggest test. So I've got through that with flying colours as far as I'm concerned. I've got no plans to revert back.
Well, I think for yourself, Tom, this isn't everyone. Like I said, often a lot of gents kind of balance around it, and it's fine. But you recognise really it was kind of like a shackle, and it's just keeping you stuck and holding you back. You used the words at the start, kind of mediocre and going through the motions. And I think what the alcohol was doing was just sort of numbing and allowing you to stay stuck. And you take that out, it's not an instant panacea of a fix, but once you do that, you start to go, this is what I'm about, and this is what I care about, and I can be present and focused, and I don't need this thing to get me through, right? And you do a huge thing like a trade show, then it shows you that you have got it within your gift and wherewithal to operate and thrive in life without that, right? So let's fast forward to as we sit today, Tom, where we started to touch on this anyway, but like having come through the process, this journey of work on yourself, what have been the key learnings, I guess, and takeaways you've had from the work you've done today on, like I like to talk about, and I talk to my clients about being version 2, right? Tom version 2. What have been the constituent parts that have really helped you start to achieve that and embody that?
I'll talk about the drinking again, but I was just for the people that are going to watch this. I know I've had a few messages from my LinkedIn post. I was never an alcoholic, and I was never kind of dependent. I was just using it for all the wrong reasons, which I was mindful for the change. But the stopping drinking has been probably the largest thing. One, I didn't think it was even possible, but two, that just has so many ripple effects in all aspects of life, just with everything, career, the day-to-day routine, the not putting things off, not procrastinating as much. Just that's been the biggest thing. But also the mindfulness has been a huge thing for me. Being more mindful on not kind of scoring my relationship, but just evaluating my relationship with my kids, with Kerry, making sure that I'm a lot more in touch with how things are playing out and how my days are going, and actively trying to change those if they're going in a negative way. The working out has obviously been a big thing in terms of physicality. I feel healthier, I'm clear-minded, I'm focused. Building up mental calluses, doing the cold showers and everything else that comes along with the non-negotiables. it's a tough one to kind of pinpoint one or two things, mate. The whole package as a whole is there isn't one thing in the blueprint that I feel hasn't benefited me in one way or another. Yes, some things have been a little bit more and had bigger ripple effects, but everything in there has its place. And to coin the phrase that you use personally and a lot of other guys use, it's a sum of the parts. There's no one big thing that is 90% of the cog turning. It's 5% on each individual thing, and it just works. It just gets you to where you need to be.
Well, what you said there, I think, is so important, and I think as a more meta principle, not just for the program or what we're talking about here, because it is, but I think as guys and men, I'm talking about our kind of age, mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, business, wife, kids, loads going on. To think there's one magic thing that's going to instantly make everything work it's unrealistic. Your life is the sum product of everything you do, and there's so much stuff going on, good and bad. And I think often we try and ignore that or think there's just some secret like way through, whereas actually the real trick or the hack, if that exists, is recognizing it isn't one thing. There's a multitude of things that we need to do and look at and take ownership from. But also with that, recognizing that life is always going to present you with certain circumstances and it's going to impact your ability to do certain things. And so you also need to be able to be resilient. So it's not like, oh, we learn these 5, 6, 7 perfect little habits, and then you do those, execute those perfect every day, and then that's your life sorted. Because that's just not how life works. It's like there's ways and things that I need to do to be able to operate that I need to apply, but I need to apply them appropriately given the situations and circumstances that I'm in. And I think taking care of yourself physically and mentally and having some practical action to take around yourself, that puts you into a better headspace, gives you more clarity. So then when life throws a shit sandwich at you, you can take a bite and deal with it versus just fold and crumble or revert to those negative habits that don't serve us, right?
Yeah, that's totally right, mate. Yeah, I agree with that.
So if, let's just say someone's watching this, Tom, and they're like, maybe like where you were, not feeling the best, feel like this, going through the motions, spinning the wheels a little bit, not in a good headspace, kind of aware that they're not where they want to be, but not quite sure what they need to do. And part of the program and working with me piece, because of course you can pick up the phone and we can have a chat and I can help, right? What would you say to an individual that's in that situation where you were, and then as you feel now, having done the work, what would you say to someone like that who's struggling, kind of know it, don't know what to do? What advice or what sort of input would you give to somebody like that?
I guess the first point will be that change can happen, and it starts with you. And if you are looking to make a change, then from my experience, and I've dealt with a number of coaches in the past, you are the only person that's been effective for me. Change can happen. You obviously have to throw yourself in at the deep end and make that initial commitment, and you have to be willing to put in the work within the program. Listen, if I can stop my drinking and change my life around for the better and become Tom version 2, anybody can. Just reach out, have a conversation with Luke. That one of the things that I mentioned on the initial chat that we had, the cost of it. I'll not dive into what the cost is, but I was surprised at how cheap it actually was. I was expecting, I don't know if you remember this, Luke, but I expected it being more than what the course actually was. And fuck me, you get a hell of a lot out of it, a hell of a lot out of it. And you get to meet a good bunch of people that are going through the same process as you. Yes, they might be a little bit further on within the elite program, but some of the guys that I've met on the course, 2 or 3 of them in particular, I will class as good friends. It's no matter what issue or fucking shit hand that life's throwing at you. No, you're not going through it alone. Everybody goes through very, very similar stuff. A lot of times, even worse than what you're doing, and it just puts things into perspective, and you get different ways of looking at things and different ways of handling things from the group itself, which is probably as much of a part as the part of the course itself. It's 50-50 for me.
Yeah, I think what you said there, Steve, Tom, is I said Steve, is really, really powerful because often I think when we're feeling like you were describing how you were feeling way back, and other gents are, it can feel like it's just you on your own, and you're in Ireland, and everyone else has got it all sorted, and it's just me, and why can't I sort myself out? And then you go into a process, and you see there's other individuals there, different backgrounds, but actually very, very similar problems. You go, oh fuck, it's not just me. There's others that struggle. Oh, he's having a shit day, and that's okay, and he behaved like that, but then he did this and got on top of it. And that shared collective experience, especially as men, is powerful. And I think I've had gents share before. When you go through a process like that, some of the stuff people talk about, you wouldn't talk to your mates about. And actually, so you get quite a deep level of connection with individuals because we're there sharing. And as you know, it's not we're all there crying into our cornflakes, all morose, nor is everyone's waving the knobs around, it's all perfect. It's shared collective experience where everyone's on a journey to be better. And I think that is a very empowering place to operate from. But especially if you've come from a place where you think it's just you on your own, you go, no, it's not. Fucking hell, he does what on LinkedIn and he's struggling with this. I thought he'd have it all sorted. It gives you a bit of relief, right?
Yeah, and I know Steve and a few other guys, Mark, Alex in particular, American Alex. I'm sure they'll agree. There's a lot to be said for opening up. I don't know if it seems easier, but there's a lot to be said for opening up to people that you've never met.
Totally.
And there's like an unwritten rule of just trust within the group, and people share some fucking deep dark, not necessarily secrets, but deep dark problems that they're going through, and we all chime in and offer help and support. There's no, like you said, there's no crying into your cornflakes and grab a tissue. It's just men helping men.
Yeah, and the thing there is about the sharing, and this is really important, I think, regardless of whether someone wants to decide to work with me and come into a program, but if you want to make a change, right? There's the practical you need to do. Yes, there are habits, behaviours. You need routine and structure. You need to assess work-life balance, set boundaries, all the practical, habitual, behavioural stuff around what you put in your mouth, how you move your body, how you structure your day, how you think, how you operate. And there's loads of habits around that, and that's all important, right? And that's what a syllabus is for. But alongside that, we also need to work on life, you, and what's tripping you up and keeping you stuck in the first place. And so if something's not working, we need to get to the root of why. I mean, and you're still in the process, Tom. We had a conversation yesterday. I won't talk about what it was, but you were feeling a certain way. We got to the root and go, oh, this is what we need to address. But if you're not able to do that, you're just stuck spinning your wheels and you feel, I'm a piece of shit because I can't do X, Y, and Z. Whereas if you ask why a few times and get to the root, that's just as important. And that's kind of what you're talking about there. It's like, well, something hasn't happened or it's impacted how I feel, then I've behaved like this. Okay, great, that is what it is. Or we go, well, why? And what do we need to do differently? And how can we address that? And having that kind of process on loop builds resilience. And yeah, you have shit days, but rather than it just being a shit day, we can analyse, look at why, and how that can be a better day next time. And I think that speaks to what you were saying there about the sharing the problems. And it's not, almost like a group therapy course. It's a shared experience of issues and problems, but then it's like, well, what do we need to do to take ownership and address those, and how can we learn from those in the future? Because to pretend that life isn't going to challenge you is absolute madness. It does constantly, but also good stuff happens as well, right? It's not all bad. It's good, great. Let's celebrate the successes, but equally, when things are difficult, well, great. Let's get our hands dirty and work out how we can be better.
Totally. And again, touching on the mindful piece that I touched on earlier, that's not just a mindfulness in like a singular thing. It makes you more conscious of relationships and relationships with your kids, and just it's a massive piece for me that I've probably got just as much out of as the not drinking. One thing I will say about the course, one of the things that I kind of toyed with at the time was, I hope it's not one of those courses that makes you kind of get up at 7 and you've got 2 hours at the gym and you've got to follow a strict diet and there's meal plans and all that, which I've done before, which for some reason didn't work with me. This is not that. This is small incremental steps that just get you to where you want to be without realizing that you're doing something massive and making a massive change. You'll say within the blueprint package, you obviously do your videos, and I think it's one of the first videos. It quite openly says, leave your fucking ego at the door. If I'm giving you an instruction to do for the week, there's no reason for you to do 10 times that amount or let your ego jump in. Just follow the process, which is exactly what me and the guys in the group have done. And 100% throw yourself in at the deep end, you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and that final point there, Tom, in terms of the ego piece, I think that's often what stops people actually going from where they are to make the progress that they need, because they've got an expectation for themselves as where they want to be or should. I use the word should, it's just could with shame attached to it, where they should be. And so they they try and achieve that because of where they're at. It's not possible, too busy, whatever else, and all those excuses are valid. So therefore, they can't and they get stuck. Whereas actually, if we just lowered the bar and your ego a little bit and go, well, just do that instead. Well, yeah, it's not enough. Well, it's better than nothing. Oh, I can do that. Oh, right, and then we go, and so it kind of unlocks stuff, but we often get stuck. And as you just said there, very quickly, those what seem like small steps compound massively, and very quickly, in a short space of time, we get to a place like you are now.
Massive, mate. Yeah, I mean, the weight loss is obviously just a byproduct of a lot of the parts within the course. But I think in the first week alone, I lost like half a stone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm 13, 14 week in now, but I'm 2.5 stone down. I don't know what that is in stones, but I'm 2.5 stone down. I started off at 21.5, so I'm what would have been now 19.
Yeah.
Lowest weight I've been in 10, 11 years. I'm in the best shape I've been in the last 10, 11 years. And it's just one of those things. I mean, just reach out to look. There's no one, as a man, there's nobody coming to save you. There's no knight on a fucking big white horse coming to save you. Get in and do the work. What's the real option? Being average. Fuck being average. Get the work done. Do it.
Awesome, mate. Well, on that note, Tom, we'll leave it there because that was a very great ending. I agree. There is no knight to save you. You've got to do the work yourself, and that's the weird thing as a coach, right? I'm saying there's no one coming here to save you. You've got to do it, but you have. The problem is you get stuck and don't know what you need to do. That's where a coach and a process and a program can help. And if anyone's listening to this and they're interested about how I can help, drop me a DM or a note in the comments. But equally, thank you so much for talking and sharing your journey, Tom, because I'm sure there'll be lots of people that have watched this that'll get a lot out of it and it'll spur them on to make a change, regardless of whether that's to reach out and speak to me. It'll help people show that, yes, you can be in a place where you don't feel great, but you can take ownership, you can change, and it's within your gift to do so. So, mate, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. As I said, if anyone's listening or watching and they'd like a chat to see how I can help, drop a note in the DM or in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. Thank you.